All right, everybody. So I just wanted to give you an assessment of a couple of things that are recently occurring here. One of them is a personal experience that I just had regarding the SNAP benefit issue and EBT, everything else related to that. And the other one is regarding what's happening in New York City right now and some things I want you to consider as that progresses into the future, and something we'll speculate on regarding how that will turn out based on my understanding of some of the strategies that are being implemented against the American people in these processes, right? So first, we'll start with the SNAP EBT issue, because it is something that I want to bring to your attention and just share this personal experience I had that gave me some real considerations to provide you with. So I was recently out with my family. We stopped at a restaurant to have lunch, right? And I'm not going to name the restaurant just because I don't want to create any issues here, and I don't think they were doing anything wrong or anything like that. The restaurant was offering meals to people who were on SNAP using EBT cards and things of that nature, or military members who are no longer receiving their benefits or their pay. So I thought that was virtuous, and I could appreciate it because what they were trying to do is maintain a level of stability within their community and help their fellow community members, which is a good thing. It's what we should want to do, right? And so that was great. It threw me off because I wasn't aware it was happening. We were just there for lunch, and the first question I got asked was, are you here for SNAP or EBT? Or are you a military member? And the answer to all those was no, but I was wondering why, right? So I thought that was a good thing they were trying to do. However, during the time that I was there with my family, having lunch, it was becoming more and more apparent that a lot of the people who were showing up there for that free meal that this restaurant was virtuous enough to try to offer in order to help their community, the more people that showed up, the more I recognized and observed that there was a high likelihood many of them didn't actually need it. And I'm sorry to say that. I know we can't just judge a book by its cover, but we can make some observations about luxury items and things of that nature and understand that there may not be as much of a need as people like to present, which then you can take and apply to the entire system itself. And yes, I think we're all aware of the fact that people have been taking advantage of government programs for quite some time. However, now that the government's shut off, and of course, the benefits are argued constantly, or we're going to pay half, or not going to pay any, whatever's happening there. Regardless, these community members, right, this restaurant, are trying to help everybody who's been affected by it, and they're being taken advantage of in the process the same way these people were taking advantage of the government. And it was upsetting just because, I was there with my family, spent a decent amount of money because, we have a large family, and the food was not inexpensive per se. But like I said, at first I was, glad that we have these businesses willing to try to help their community. But it was sad to see so many people showing up taking advantage of this situation when, at least in my opinion, it was pretty clear that the majority of them didn't need a free meal, in all honesty. And I think that's the reality of the actual programs themselves, right? There were some people there that presented in a sense that you could assume they may need some additional assistance. Reasonable, right? There's level of reasonability there, of course, and I can be a reasonable person when it comes to that stuff. But it was a bad example for me in the sense of the ratio of want versus need, I guess. And I thought about that while I was there, in this restaurant that was trying to do something good and charitable and help their community was being taken advantage of. And it just made me consider the idea that during these large-scale emergencies that we prepare for, that could be coming in the future, the same people are going to do the same exact things to their own community and be that liability and that basic leech in the sense of resources. And it's something that you should be aware of, because even with the government shut down and these people not receiving those benefits, they were more than happy to come out and take advantage of kind-hearted, charitable businesses when it was clear it wasn't needed. And so be careful who you share resources with, be careful who you provide aid to, and be careful when it comes to your community being in need to ensure that it gets to the right people and the people who actually need that assistance, and not those who are just going to take advantage of the situation. I think that's, relatively common logic. However, seeing it firsthand and watching the people who are lining up to get that free meal that currently have those benefits and aren't receiving them, it was very apparent that we have a problem. We have a big problem. So, and you can say, well, you don't know their life, Magic Prepper. I didn't need to. Trust me. So, and listen, I do think that there are times where it's reasonable to help people that are on hard times. I can understand that as someone who wants to stabilize their community, right? That's kind of our job here. But that wasn't it. That wasn't it. I felt bad for that restaurant for how much they were being taken advantage of. So, moving on from there, right? New York City, that whole situation. A lot of people are losing their minds about it right now. Here's something that I want you to consider and something that I think you should be mentally preparing for. First off, in case you don't know, Zohran Mamdani, did I say his name right? I keep messing it up because every time I click record on the camera, I forget how it's spelled. Regardless, Zohran Mamdani, I think is his name, just became the new mayor-elect of New York City. He's a socialist, he's Muslim, he's got a lot of interesting ideas, let's just say, about how things should work, which many of us would probably disagree with. And this goes along the lines of what I discussed in a video recently regarding the strategies of the Ottoman Empire and how they maintain control over large conquered territories. I would speculate that what we'll see in New York City isn't going to be just like an immediate third world disaster or things along those lines. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if things actually went really well. And the reason I say that, and the reason that you should be kind of mentally preparing for that, is that that's the strategy for allowing more of it to happen in the future, to getting people used to the idea that this actually isn't as bad as everybody had us believing. This actually isn't as dangerous as everybody wanted us to think. And actually, when people like Mamdani get into power, and even though they have these socialist, commie ideologies, and they have these religious ideologies that don't necessarily mix with Western civilization in many ways, if you ask me, well, things actually are looking pretty good. Looks like it's actually going pretty well. And so strategically, if they wanted to implement a level of control and gain access and infiltrate our political system while also still gaining the support of a large portion of the population, the correct maneuver would be to actually improve things and create a level of comfort for everybody who is on the fence, to show that actually things can be really good under our type of rule, under our type of ideology. And you have to sell and market the idea before you can fully implement it. And so my speculation is just that if they were truly trying to implement a new way of running things that could actually turn into an extremely detrimental issue here in the United States of America, they're not going to flip the switch day one, right? If he wants to actually instill some level of socialist, communist ideology at the city level in New York, and then at the same time, obviously push in some of those Islamic ideologies in the process, they're going to do it in a way that makes people feel like it was a good thing. So I don't expect immediate chaos. I don't expect immediate breakdown of society. I don't expect things to literally start crumbling, burning to the ground overnight. And I wouldn't be surprised if they actually got better and if things actually started to get more positive there, to try to prove that point that it's actually a good thing that you guys should do more often and in more places around the rest of the country. And it'll be used as an example to say, see, you were wrong about us, and this is why it's okay to be cool with it. Could I be wrong? Sure. And I'm not necessarily, this isn't a doomsday prophecy, right? Like, that's something we're trying to avoid these days because it never pans out very well for anybody involved. But strategically, and just considering the options that are currently at hand, and the fact that this type of person is now taking a level of authority and power in one of our largest cities, I think it makes sense that this would be the logical approach if your goal was to well, control more than just New York City. So I just wanted to bring those things to your attention because both of them are relevant right now. Both of them are relevant to preparedness in a certain way. The food SNAP benefit thing is relevant to preparedness because people are obviously out there looking for assistance that they're currently not getting, which means your neighbors may need additional support or help, or you're going to figure out who's taking advantage of the system as well as any other charitable actions that are being offered. Gives you a lot to consider, especially if a big emergency ever came to fruition. And of course, the passive takeover of our country that has been going on for quite some time in many ways, at least in my opinion, seems to be progressing. And what we're seeing may be indicative of what we should expect more of here in the future. And I think that the level of positivity you should anticipate regarding that change is different than everyone's necessarily expecting right now. And so it kind of teaches you, or at least lets you observe the way things will keep moving forward and progressing towards that path that I'm sure you and I aren't necessarily aligned with. So just wanted to bring this to your attention. If you guys want to support the channel, please visit magicprepper.com. There's a lot of ways you can support what I do at that website, as well as leaving comments below, liking and subscribing, and let me know in those comments if you think that my thought process about that strategy is legitimate, and if you are assuming there's some problems with the SNAP benefit program that would apply to an emergency as well. And of course, don't forget, if you want to support the Task Force 70 Foundation, it's a nonprofit 501c3 that I'm working with in order to try to provide improvements to America's policing force in the sense of understanding constitutional principles and also teaching higher end tactics to small and rural departments that don't have access to that level of training. Check out the description as well as the pinned comment for a link there where you can become a donor. And who knows, maybe certain companies are, part of that, let's just say, donor appreciation group. So anything else you need from me at all, you know what to do. And besides that, that's going to be it for Magic Prepper.